Hello again on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's just right, not too hot, not too cold. All the lawnmowers are finished for the day. Hopefully, we'll have some quiet. And we're having some really nice red wine. We're back to the Rhone again, which by now you guys probably think it's my favorite part in the world, and maybe it is. Anyway, this is a by Auguste Clape, and it's a Côte du Rhône. 2015. Now, Auguste Clape is basically the name in the Rhone. And what does that mean by that? This is a winemaking family that goes back over 100 years from different parts of the country of France, but they ended up in the Rhone, northern Rhone, in the middle of the century, right after the war. Auguste Clape himself, who was born in the 20s, basically married into the Clape domain. His wife inherited some vines and very small domain, very small plot of land, very small vineyard up on the hills. We're talking 50-60% angles, as we've discussed before, gradient. And then back at the time, the wine, as we had discussed in the past, was just wine of Cornas, was just either the grapes were sold to other people, the Syrah, or they were just being drunk locally in pitchers and what have you. So Auguste Clape was the first man in Cornas to bottle his own wines. And he basically started that trend, that amazing run to quality, where now bottles of Cornas sell for $200, $300, $400 sometimes. Some of the top ones, like Clape, like Allemand, and others. And he was also the mayor of Cornas. He just died in his 90s a couple of years ago. So really, this is a man that had a fundamental influence on his region and on Cornas as we know it. Now they have a third generation, Olivier, and Pierre-Marie is his son, Olivier is the grandson. And then they make basically the Clape Cornas. They make the Renaissance, which is younger vines, from the Cornas area, and it's a little bit of cheaper wine. And they make a Côte du Rhône and a Vin des Amis red, and they make some whites, a Saint-Péret and a Côte du Rhône blanc. So anyway, given the budget here, given the price of these things, I decided to try the Côte du Rhône. I have a few Clapes, and I was introduced to that when we were in the Rhône a couple of years ago. But I also thought the Côte du Rhône, which is quite expensive for a Côte du Rhône, would also be a good introduction to the philosophy and to the terroir of this maker. Now, the Côte du Rhône is not a typical Côte du Rhône. It's 100% Syrah, made primarily from the really younger vines of the Cornas vineyard. So we're talking 30, 40-year-old vines. That's younger. And from Syrah, 100% Syrah, from just outside the appellation, so they wouldn't be able to call it Cornas or Saint-Joseph or whatever, so it's called Côte du Rhône. And it's 100% Syrah. Looking at the color, it's that depth, really the more, doesn't have the redness that you can have in a Grenache. It's really purely of that red-purple tinge. It's not very alcoholic, it's 13%, 13.5%. And it's still very young. 2015 was the year, probably the best year of the last 100 years. If you look at the statistics in the Northern Rhone, it's a 99 out of 100 year, just incredible. And there's been a lot of good years. 2016 was a good year. 17, 18, 19, 9, 10, 11. But 2015 seems to be mythical. Not everywhere, but this is something you're going to have a good wine if you're buying from a good property. On the nose, it's still a little bit closed, which is kind of funny because this wine, the comment says it's very young, you have to wait, but I have a few bottles, so I decided to I just couldn't wait. I had to try it. And it's really, I opened it a few days ago, it's really getting a lot more open. You've got this typical sort of meat and blood that you get from the Northern Rhone, Syrah, the tougher side, like the Cornas and the Hermitage. And you got this sort of, costaud, like we say in French, wine, which really I really like. A little bit of fruit starts showing up, and it's primarily like deep red and maybe even like we're talking blackberry, blueberry, that kind of fruit. but it's primarily savory, I would say, on the nose. In the mouth, you got a little bit of cocoa, you got that fruit opening up, still primarily savory, still a little bit, not fruit forward, which is really great because I mean, again, I like that. Now, if you drink a Côte d'Or, typically you would expect it to be vibrant, bright, fruity, young, vivacious. This is not that. This is a serious wine right off the bat, and it's just, you can tell that it's a northern Syrah, wine. It's savory. You got the meat and blood, as I said before. A little bit of fruit, but it's also mixed in with cocoa and a little bit of anise, licorice, just a little bit. So it stays a little bit on the tartar side, but the finish is beautiful, very smooth. Still a little bit tannic, but this is a wine that's really going to develop beautifully, and it's worth really many Cornas, I think. So highly recommended, at least in my book, and then very enjoyable even on a summer day. See you soon.